Hi guys, hope you're all well. Yeah, I just finished watching 1519 Supernatural this morning, Inherit the Earth. I really liked this episode. I thought it was really well done for a series finale. I know some fans weren't happy with it and they were left a little bit confused. I can see why, because feels like the writers packed too much in and they had to change the writing style because of COVID-19, and they had to adapt to the new social distancing rules. Well, I thought it was really clever how they brought it, like they put it into the story, with like friends Sam and Dean had made, and then how they all disappeared, and then Chuck poofed them. That's like with social distancing, they all went away. I originally think their idea before COVID was to bring a lot more past characters back, for reminiscing of all the friends and family the boys are in contact with over like the years. But because of COVID, they couldn't do that, unfortunately. So that's why I think they had to change it. Yeah, like some fans, I get why they like would be like, it's a bit underwhelming as a season finale. I liked it though. I think some of it was really clever what they did. Yes, I'm going to start off with the opener for it. So, previous episode was the tragic sacrifice Cass made for Dean. That still gets me. I am a Destial shipper, so it's going to get me a little bit. It was hard to watch as well. Saying goodbye to a character that you've loved on the show for so long, and then Misha portrayed Cass so brilliantly. But I thought it was a beautiful send-off for him, like sacrificing himself for Dean, which I think was really fitting for their profound bond and how it developed over so many years on the show. And then you got Dean left like a sobbing mess, basically, when seeing Cass being taken by the Empty. So then you see Sam and Jack in the aftermath of everybody going like Thanos style, poofed away, and then asking like, is that everybody? And then obviously Dean comes and they meet with Dean and ask him, like, Sam was like, I couldn't save anyone. So Sam guilt tripping himself, making me like really feeling bad that he couldn't do anymore. Sam, you couldn't do anymore. It wasn't your fault. It's Chuck being a massive douchebag and like taking everyone away from you that you care about, just to fit in with his like perfect ending. He's such a dick. He really is. And then you've got Jack asking about where's Cass. That got me a little bit. I was like, don't cry. And then Sam asking the question again, repeating like, Dean, like where's Cass? And then he's like obviously explaining Cass didn't make it, and then the whole sacrificing himself for Dean, and obviously the Empty taking him and Billy, because obviously they thought at the time it was Billy doing all the being responsible for all the disappearances of their friends, but no, it was actually Chuck. And then Dean reveals this to Sam and Jack, and they're probably thinking like, what a dick, when he couldn't get even more of a douchebag and he does this. So yeah, then poor Jack, when Dean tells him, it's like, oh, poor little nugget baby. I'm like, boys, one of you, please can you just like comfort Jack, please? He's just lost like his main father figure here. But like some fans are pissed off with the fact that Dean didn't even hug him. Yeah, I can get why, but then Dean just not had that long to process it either. That he's just lost his best friend, and his best friend's just confessed his basically love for him in a romantic way, and he didn't even know about it, and because it was never spoken about, it was all like silent words and it's more actions based. So I think that was Dean's way of kind of coping with Cass's death in a way, because usually I think with Dean, he's not really a touchy-feely character unless like someone's dying or like near death. But then obviously I think Cass's words like probably will get to Dean, and then he will see more worth in himself, and he's not what the enemy's depicted himself as. Like he's been someone that's like really angry and got loads of self-hatred for himself. But obviously because Cass told him everything you ever done was for love, like texting your brother for love obviously as well. So I think that'll come into play as well with like shifting his character development in the last ever episode, I think. But when he came up to Jack and said, "I'm sorry," I was like, oh. Also, Dean was still wearing the same jacket that from the previous episode. Let's just mention that as well, where Cass left the bloody handprint. I'm just like, no. You still have to mention it and get the feels going. And then obviously the boys are trying to find out like how they're gonna stop God now, like because he's wiped everybody out on Earth. Then they go back to the bunker, trying to come up with a plan what to do. Then obviously Dean feels a bit really sorry for himself, and he obviously drinks himself a little bit into oblivion. Poor guy. Well, after just watching your best friend die the previous episode before, he's not really dealing with it. And then obviously Jack starts hearing things with his like little angel kind of radio, like obviously what Cass used to hear as well. Like he's like noticing another presence here on Earth. It's not just them that are still left standing. At this point I thought like that's Michael, isn't it? Because like who else is there gonna be? Like because obviously we haven't seen him since episode 8, so like he must have been in hiding ever since, or like not to let God detect that he's like around and not use his powers. That's obviously what he's done. So that's what they do. They go to a church, and then ironically the church is called St. Michael, so then you can guess like, oh, that's where Michael's been hiding now all this time. So I know it's good they finally obviously met up with Michael. And then Dean's like, why did you ignore us last time when we tried reaching out to you? I was like, yeah, Michael, why are you being a dick? But then I kind of get it, because he didn't want like to be detected by God and using his powers. If he used his powers, then God would have known. They'd help the Winchesters, and then, you know, he would have obviously been pissed about that, siding with them over his own father. But then he's God saying, that was then, this is now, I'm going to help you now. It's like, oh, I knew it. He's kind of coming round now and actually helping the boys. So that's good. Also, Lucifer coming back. It's like, come on. Not saying it wasn't nice to see Matt Pellegrino again, it was, but it's like, it's a bit of a dead horse now. Like, Lucifer should have just stayed dead. Obviously Dean killed him in season 13 finale. It's like, you should have left it as it was. But I kind of get obviously why he was brought back, because obviously when Jack had the bomb inside him from doing that spell that he got from Garden of Eden at him, then he exploded, because obviously Billy sent him to the empty, and then he exploded and he took the empty with him, and obviously then Jack gave Billy the God's Death Book, and then it was all erased, and then the empty got pissed, and then she's like, you made it loud, and I was like, oh crap, it's going to bring Lucifer back, isn't it? And then like the other beings in the empty, they could get out as well. Like, what about them? Like Ruby, she was awoken by Cass. What's happened with that? So yeah, he was brought back. A bit like comic relief really, because it's like he's not like the whole like old vengeful, powerful like Lucifer was back in season 5. He's kind of coming like a caricature himself now. I do like his one-liners. It can be funny. It's just like, really, come on. And then he tricked Dean and us as fans when he did the fake Cass call. I was like, oh no, it's not Cass. It's like, fuck's sake. For God's sake. And he felt for Dean because he thought it really was Cass, like back. and helping them. I'm like, oh, Dean, no. And then Sam was like, I'm not sure, I don't think that's Cass. And obviously Dean rushed up to open the door, then you realise, like, oh shit, that's not Cass. When he saw Lucifer, and he was like, no, hell no, shut the door on him, don't want to deal with him again. Then obviously he let himself in. And then Lucy's like, really, that's no way to treat a friend. I'm like, Sam's like, we're not your friend. Well, no, they're not, because he's like screwed him over more times than he can count. He tried to kill his own bloody son, for God's sake. And he obviously killed Cass as well. Don't forget, in season 12, so that's not even forgotten about. He's done loads of shitty things, so I kind of get what they're trying to do with him. Like, doing a little bit of redemption arc, but it didn't really work. I always thought it had an agenda anyway. I'm like, why is he been brought back? He was kind of saying the spiel like, oh, the Empty's brought me back. I'm like, why would the Empty bring you back to help them boys out when the Empty probably doesn't like you very much? And then he's like, oh, I bring a little token for you to cut out the like little tension and animosity between us, because he sensed it with Dean and stuff. And then obviously they reveal a new Reaper, Betty. I was like, who the hell's Betty at first? I'm like, why is he bringing a random woman? Sam and Dean, they're like, they're like, what, who the hell's this? Then you realise, oh, do you not know Betty's a Reaper? And Sam's like, yeah, we heard first time, so he repeats himself again, like, oh, a Reaper. I'm like, okay, yeah. Right, we've got a Reaper. Where's this going? And then he just goes and stabs him, and then, like, what the hell, Lucifer? What are you doing? Then he's like, wait for him, like, oh, she's going to become the new Death now, isn't she? Because she's gone to take over from Billy, who's just died. I was like, that makes sense. And then obviously she gets the scythe, and then she gets the ring. So yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then he betrays the boys. I'm like, that's no bloody surprise. He's done it before. And it reveals like, oh, hey, my dad brought me back from the Empty tonight to stop you boys. I'm like, oh, I'm not really shocked there. And then obviously Michael sees Lucifer and is like, why are you trusting him? And then he kind of goads him. It's like, don't go, Michael, it won't end well. Then he kills him. I'm like, yes, Michael, finally, someone's killed him for good now and he's back in the Empty. Don't have to deal with him again. So yeah, then they come up with like a spell they can use on God. Stop him, which Sam does from the Book of the Damned. Yes, and they have a final showdown with God. And then God kills Michael. It's just like, oh, come on, give him a break. It's like, oh, you sired the Winchester, I'll spit my dummy out again on you. And kills him. Then he tries getting the boys, like beats the boys to a pulp. They're still not gonna back down. So then they're gonna defeat him. Yeah. And then Jack becomes a new god, which I think is amazing character development for him and his end of his story arc. And he strips Jux of his powers, and then he becomes human, which is like fitting for his character and of his development as well in story. Like, have a taste of your medicine, you dick cat, you ass hat. And then Sam and Dean like, we're not like the people you depicted in your story. Then they left him there to rot as a human. I think that's justice, really. I was happy with what they did with his story out then. And then it comes back to them leaving Chuck, and then Chuck saying goodbye to the boys. Obviously he's a new god now, and he puts things right, brings everyone back. Him's been restored, and then him and Mara have got balance now. Yeah, and then ends with the boys driving out in the sunset, which I thought might happen anyway. And then you get all the flashbacks, which kind of tied me up a little bit. But it'll be really interesting where they go in the final episode now with the boys. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Very sad, but I'm looking forward to it. Because in the promo, they didn't really give you much away at all, which sucks. I wanted a little bit of a teaser, but oh well. Yeah, so I'm going to do a review of the last episode next week, so stay tuned for that, guys. See you later. Bye.